All right, what's up, everybody? It's Mike and Jordan here from Yost Sport. We have been back from the 25 hours of Thunderhill for 2 days now, and as you can see behind us, we're already hard at work at preparing for next year's event. The race itself didn't quite go as planned, as we envisioned it or wanted it, but hey, that's the nature of this race. If we can only have one bad year out of every 5, we'd be happy. But we just wanted to give you a quick little video recap instead of some big old long article. Do something a little different for you guys. So we're just gonna very informally, nothing fancy, talk back and forth about what happened during the race and give you a little insight on our plans for next year.
So start of the race became real interesting right from the get-go. Some of you guys noticed that we're following the live timing and scoring that we pitted immediately. We were having a communication error with the shifting on the car. We don't know why it started. It's just dumb luck that right at the start of the race we have this problem. But we ended up surrendering our position, so we had to start in the back of the field. So we went through pit lane, refired it, got it reset. It was working properly at that point. Made our way all the way around to the back of the field to just catch the start and work our way through, which in this particular race, it's not that big of a deal to start from the back of the pack. It's such a long race. The only thing you have to worry about is just being caught up in any of the nonsense that goes on the start. But, I'm pretty confident with a lot of these teams that are out there that they put their most confident drivers in on the start, because in the last 3 years that we've been participating in this event, we've never had a problem on the start, never had a car spin, go off, no issues. So it was pretty easy working my way back. I think 3rd or 4th lap in, we were right back to where we started, so it wasn't a big deal. It just allowed everybody else to get that advantage on us. So we were already struggling from the end, or from the beginning, through our first stint. But overall, it was a good first stint. It got us a chance to do a full pit stop with a bunch of new guys that came out from Texas. That we can't say enough great things about those guys. They just absolutely stepped up and just killed it for us at this event and really just dived in and helped us out as much as possible. So, we'll, like I said, big shout out to them. But, good first stint. I got out of the car, got Sean in, which is our rookie driver this year. I'll let Mike talk a little bit more about that. I had, at that point, walked away to go get some rest because my next stint would have been into the night. So I ended up walking away, and Mike took over at that point to make sure that we were ready to go.
Yeah. So by the time Jordan had got back out of the car after his first stint, he had already gotten us back into where we would have started the race and gained a couple more positions from there. So we were feeling pretty good about that. We bounced back from that first mishap very quickly. We got Sean in the car for his first race stint with us as a team driver, and he did just exactly what we needed him to do. Got up to speed pretty quickly, ran the pace that we asked him to run, and stayed out of trouble and kept everything clean, and the car ran just fine. We didn't have any problems with it. He got back out of the car probably about 3 hours. His 2 stints went, and can't say enough about how proud we are of him to step up and take that nerve-wracking situation and just own it like he did. It's very cool and very relieving to all of us as a team to have a solid driver like that to be our 4th driver. So anyways, once Sean got out of the car after his good stint, we were a couple more positions up again. We got Barry into the car. Plan for Barry was to take the car into the night. So take the sun down and the first hour or so of nighttime driving. And unfortunately, once Barry got in the car, we started having our string of bad luck. Not too far into his first stint, we got hit by a Miata on the passenger door. Wasn't a big hit. Car seemed to be okay, but it was anytime you have that come over the radio, it's a big spike in stress levels for the whole team. But he just stayed out. The car was fine. Hardly any damage, just a little bit of body damage. That was okay. And then a little bit later on in his stint, we started having transmission issues again, where the transmission was skipping all of the even gears. It was just using fifth and third, where we really want to be using fourth and fifth for most of this racetrack. So we thought initially we were losing a gear, so after talking it through, we didn't have a replacement transmission, so our only chance to get this fixed was hope that it was electronic. So we brought it in, shut the car completely off, killed the main power, fired it back up, and thankfully for us, that was the fix for the problem. Everything was fine after that. Then a little bit later into his stint, closer towards the end of it, we got hit again, this time much harder by another car that was in our class. And that hit we weren't so lucky with. It bent the tie rod on the outside left front to the point where the car was undrivable, but thankfully Barry was able to get it back into the pits, and we got it up in the air, found the problem, and unfortunately for us, it wasn't one of our tie rod. It wasn't the outer tie rod end, which we have spare parts for from SPL. That tie rod end held up just fine. That thing is super strong, and we can't say enough about SPL parts. It was the factory inner tie rod end that ended up being bent. And after calling around to a bunch of dealerships, nobody had it in stock for such a new car. Our only play left at that point to stay in the race was to go over to a couple pit stalls over to Strom Motorsports, who had a spare M4, and basically ask if they would be willing to give it to us. And thanks to them for stepping up and just saying, yeah, if you guys can replace it after the race, it's yours. Get back out there. So huge thanks to them. They're a competitor of ours, and that's super cool to see that sort of thing happen at a race like this when we're the only two M4s out there basically competing against each other in the same class. So the guys from Texas and our crew, we got the car back out. At this point, Barry got back out just to finish off that tank of fuel, and everything was working okay. Car seemed fine, and then I got into the car for my first stint into the night. Car was running. Car wasn't handling quite as good as it was after that hit, but it was still able to keep a decent pace. And as the night got cooler and the air got cooler, the car power-wise ran a little bit better. So we were able to keep pretty consistent lap times from where we wanted to be anyway. Now, unfortunately, at this point in the race, we weren't in the hunt for any sort of good finish or win or anything like that. So our goal at this point was just to get the race over, finished, run the whole 25 hours. I went through my first stint without much issues, and then during a long caution, the brake pedal started going away and went eventually all the way to the floor. So we had to come in. We had to bleed the brakes once. We don't know if there was an air bubble trapped in the ABS system or whatever, but regardless, it was just another thing we had to come in and spend some time fixing. But once we bled the brakes, we got back out there. The brakes performed flawlessly after that. Brought it in after 3+ hours of running into the night, and we were making good ground and just keeping good pace, staying out of trouble again. And I came in, handed the car back over to Jordan.
Yeah, then I took my first stint, double stint into the night. It's something that Mike and I do a lot, is we like to double stint through the night. We find that we can make up a lot of ground just by getting into that groove and that rhythm. We don't do a lot of talking through the night, a couple little laughs over the radio every once in a while just to break it up a little bit. But for the most part, we just push through the night as hard as we can. 3 hours straight. Gives us quite a few laps out there, and gives us a chance to kind of gain some ground back, if you would, on it. So my first stint went through pretty well. I had a couple little the transmission resets. We started to see that a lot through the night. We absolutely determined it is not a heat issue or an overheating issue. It is purely an electronic issue, and it's something that we've just never seen in testing yet. So we didn't really know what was going on, but back when we first discovered it on Barry's stint, we just took a very logical approach to it. We had a lot of educated people there in our pits that we talked to them about the transmission and wanted to make sure that what was going on wasn't actually destructive to the transmission, and we just took a logical approach and shut it down, recycled it, reset the computer, and it seemed to come back just fine. And, we had to deal with that throughout the night. It wasn't really a big deal in the big picture. If it happened, we just came in, It was fortunate enough that it was happening a lot on the back straight, so it was real convenient for us to just dive into the pits, reset it, and get back out.
It would have been a lot more annoying had we been competing for
Yeah,
overall
absolutely.
position or something like that.
Yeah,
But
and it's something that we'll determine what was going on. We ran a lot of data logging through the OBD2 port during practice, and we didn't see that problem. So we only saw it during the race. Unfortunately, we weren't data logging at that point, so we don't really know what was causing it. And then when we did have the brake stop for Mike, when we were bleeding the brakes, we did run diagnostics on the car, and there were no faults in the transmission. So again, we're still not 100% sure what's going on, but we do know for a fact it was not a heat issue. We were running a prototype DCT cooler from CSF on the car, which performed amazing. We drained the fluid recently. Fluid's clear. There's no particulates in it, no metal shavings, nothing. So we know for a fact that there was not a wear and tear issue. When we recycled the ECU, it came right back online. There were no problems. So we just want to make that clear as to what was going on with the transmission, that it's not a heat issue. It's definitely an electrical issue. We don't know why. It could just be a surface condition at the point that it was happening, because it kept happening to all of us in almost the same spot. So it could just be a characteristic of the track. Plus, we've changed this car so much electronically. Also with the suspension, the grip loads, it could be wheel speed sensors. It could be a lot of different things that just are missing communication. But again, ended up not being a big deal in our race, but if we were fighting position, it would definitely be a problem. So we will be addressing that as we get the car back up and running. But through the night, everything was pretty simple.